This is always the best part.
Always love to thank Mike Ferrantino and the band Love in Reverse for doing the intro of the A Game with that music. We really appreciate it, Mike. I'm Rob McImpora on the Jersey Shore in Ming Chen's shared universe studio. And I thought I was going to be the one that's under the weather, but I did find out Corin Nemec, very talented actor, writer, poet, and newlywed, has come on here. And what did you just have done? You were telling me just before we started.
A root canal. I never had one of these things before in my life. It was an emergency type situation. I had to go in late this afternoon, and I ignore these things. I hate these kind of things. It was terrible. I can't believe that I've made it to the ripe age of 51 without ever having had one. So at least there's that.
Right. But there's that
But
reminder in your head of going, I'm going to remember this, so this way it never happens again.
it's ungodly. I'm in terrible pain right now, but I'm going to try and pretend I'm not while we do this little interview here.
We'll do this an interview. We'll call it an acting exercise. It'll be a lot of different things here, and I got to keep you smiling. So
Yes,
off
yes,
the gate.
exactly.
Well, let me start
Exactly.
with this because this is kind of a great way to start. First off, congratulations! You just got married within the last 7 months.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah. I've waited a long time to meet the right person, and it worked out for the best, and I could not be happier at this point. And I waited just the right amount of time. I was just going, getting that sort of island fever condition that
right,
when you're single for. I mean, I wasn't single. I dated, and some people here and there,
sure.
but for the most part, I focused on trying to be there for my kids, more so than anything else. So I had a lot of solitude in Texas, where my kids grew up, and where the house I lived. I really didn't have any social scene whatsoever around there,
Right.
and we lived in a sort of a country suburb, and there was nothing going on. I had two guys that I hung out with. One was my contractor who did the work on the little farmhouse that I had bought. We became really close friends. His name's Steve McQueen.
Mhm.
And then and my buddy Spencer, who we were good friends because, oddly enough, his brother was a really great animator, and he had developed a animated series that we were trying to get off the ground around 2006 or 7 with Paul Mooney, the famous
Oh yeah.
stand-up comedian. Well,
Very
I grew up with his son Shane, and we had come up with a concept. Not Shane, his son and I didn't come up with this concept,
Mhm.
but I came up with a concept with some other partners, called The American President, with the idea of Paul Mooney being the first black president. It was actually before Obama became president when we were shopping this thing, and I wrote the original pilot for it with Paul Mooney, which was an
Wow.
incredible experience. He's quite the character.
So I'm guessing you were just more of a workaholic for all this time. And with that, it does pose the one question. Did you ever think at one point in this whole thing, you're thinking, you know what, it's just not going to happen for me. I'm probably not going to meet the person. I'm not going to get married again. I'm not going to do this. So let me just throw myself into my work and we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, this industry, arts and entertainment industry in general, it's very tough on any relationship. There's
Absolutely.
that, it can become all encompassing, and the amount of travel, especially, I found that when I started acting in 1986, even then, half the work that I was doing was outside of Los Angeles.
Right.
So, but there was more. I was doing more work in Los Angeles in the 80s and 90s than I certainly started doing later on in the late. I started being I was up in Canada a whole lot,
Hmm.
and over and then in the 2000s over in Bulgaria like 5 or 6 times on different projects, and over in the Philippines several times, and just I mean all over the place. Lithuania once. It just, the film business takes you everywhere, but it's hard on relationships because it's hard to you can't really plan anything. Everything has to be last minute because as soon as you plan something, guaranteed you're going to get a job offer
Of
that's
course.
going to cause you to have to cancel it, and then it's just like, what do you do?
Right.
So
But I'm guessing Sabrina was just totally on board with this and kind of, she's not in the industry. So she's had to kind of digest this as you go along, but she's been totally like, hey, do what you got to do. I'm here. I love you. We're going to make this work.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but she has, some experience. She was in the music business a bit, doing
Okay.
A&R and stuff back when she was in her 20s, late 20s and stuff. And I think that that she was around the arts and entertainment industry
Right.
for about six or more years, heavily, and
Right.
I think well understands what it entails, and also. Um, she has the ability to come and travel with me, come and
Right.
see me and do all of that, more so because she, her employment, she's self-employed,
Right.
so she can fluctuate a bit, on her own. And whereas because I did date, quite a bit outside of the industry,
Hmm.
well, I guess what people would call normies,
Yes.
I just I felt like there was just something that was more, I don't know, normal to me about that, I suppose. But somebody who does have a regular career job,
Right.
that keeps them in one city for the majority of the year and all of that, and no matter how great it is, there's no flexibility there, and over a period of time, it just really gets tiresome for anybody to be like the
Right.
second fiddle to somebody's career.
Sure. Understandable. Christian,
Yeah.
you can go to the photos because I want to show you how happy these two are. Give me photo number 3. I took the liberty of taking a look at your YouTube video and got a couple of spot photos, and that you two just look amazing there. And by the way, you pull off pink incredibly well.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. You should see when I'm pulling pink off the bottom of a pair of sneakers when I step on somebody's bubble gum. No.
Nice. Yeah, and it looked
Hmm.
like it was just a fun festival. And look, if you search Corin Nemec on YouTube, it's out there. I didn't want to play the whole video, but I wanted to take a couple of excerpts just to give you an idea about these two people because they look so much in love. I think it's fantastic, Corin. The one thing I did like, photo number 4,
Ah,
I love that. I love
yeah.
both of you. It seems like it's a real reflection of both of your personalities.
Yes, that we definitely are balanced in a lot of our kind of like cultured, how we're kind of cultured in the same generation.
Right.
That the Gen X, that's sort of just before the transhumanist thing took a leap forward. Uh, so we got that last sort of Stand By Me uh,
Right.
experience of life.
Love it. Oh, and I did notice
Yeah.
some very interesting guests at the wedding. If I'm having have the liberty of photo number 2, not often you get to see a living legend of the school of wrestling like Hulk Hogan. How did Hulk wind up at the wedding, and who knows Mr. Hogan here?
Um, well, I've my my wife and his wife are both very close friends,
Oh, that's
and
good.
they've been friends for a very long time.
Right.
And so it was sort of just how fate works out, that and I've had at different pop culture conventions, things like that. I've seen
Yeah.
Terry around a bit, but it was very cool. He had some beautiful words to say, and he's a really down to earth guy, man, and he's been through this industry even longer than I have, which is hard to believe. But and he's just a legend. I mean, you want to talk about legendary status. There's few people who are more well known on planet Earth. You got to get into the level of like American presidents and the biggest rock stars on planet Earth and stuff like that to get to the level of visual awareness that people have of that guy's handlebar mustache and
Yes.
Hulk bandana.
There was one other photo, and I'm going to ask because it's photo number 6, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm going to ask, is that Clancy Brown?
No, man. No,
Chris,
that's John.
Christian, my engineer, we had a bet. He's like, no, it looks kind of like Clancy Brown, but it's not him. And I'm like, oh no, it's got to be. Okay, I lost that bet.
No,
Clancy's got a
no,
doppelganger beyond, man. That's wild.
no, that's funny.
There's another guest I'm going to get to a little later on who's a good friend of yours, and I'll explain the London factor a little later on here on the A Game. Here with Corin.
Sure.
Absolutely. Fantastic with the wedding. You also had a movie come out within the last 6 months that you were involved as an actor, but also creating the screenplay. So you took the graphic novel of Dead Man's Hand and created the screenplay. How difficult was it, or how easy was it to take that graphic novel and try to make it gel for a film?
Well, the thing about the Minor Brothers have a great story. It's a trilogy.
Right.
The Dead Man's Hand is the first in 3 books that I hope that they all get made. But the one thing about graphic novels is it's the story doesn't have to be as interconnected, interwoven as the plot points don't have to make much sense. There's things can just happen because they happen, and
Okay.
and that's true too in film to a degree, but there it was challenging. It was challenging, but in a great fun way. The Western genre is something that I've always loved and was never afforded a moment in my acting career up to that point to be able to act in
Right.
or to be a part of, and to actually get to sit down and write it. And there was no Brian Skiba and I, he directed and he did, and he wrote the director's draft of that script, of course. We had done a film a number of years earlier called Rotten Tail, and that was also a Source Point Press graphic novel spinoff. And it was just a horror comedy, real grindhouse, super 80s. I thought it turned out really well for what it was we were trying to do. I've also worked on as a producer on that with him too, and so having the opportunity to take another one of Source Point Press's graphic novels and
Right.
and get to do the first draft of the script, that to me was extremely exciting, because most of the stuff I've written before that did not have any kind of headliners like Jack Kilmer and Stephen Dorff and Cole Hauser.
When I saw that
Fronting
those
the
3 were
bill.
involved in the project, I got to be honest with you, Corin, that was like an attention getter. Like going, okay, you got Cole Hauser's in one of the hottest shows in the world in Yellowstone, and Jack being Val's son, and I hear he's a fantastic actor. And then you got
Yeah,
Steve.
he's just a great kid, man.
Oh,
Too. He's a great
I
young
like
guy.
to hear that. I like to hear that.
It's
Absolutely.
and I know from growing up in Hollywood myself, by the time you're in your mid-20s, man, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Which way you're gonna land.
Right.
If you've been in Hollywood in the mainstream kind of flow of Hollywood from as young of an age of him, obviously born into it, but me starting professionally in it at 12 years old, but growing up around it because my father and my mom being in the music business herself, and the theater and musical business as a graphic designer, and my dad a production designer and set designer in the film business for so many years.
Well, you make a great point that I want to get to in just a second, but if I can get Christian, scroll down. I want to get the photo up so people can see this. The movie photo is where I lost it. The poster, yes. There you go. Bang. By the way, now available on Apple TV, on Vudu, on Amazon Prime. You can go and enjoy this movie, which also features Randall Batinkoff, who, by the way, back in the day did a film with Cole Hauser. You know, interesting the ties that bind, school ties they did together a long time ago. Costas Mandylor, another very good actor. And of course, my guest, Corin Nemec, who was also a part of this. So get it at home, enjoy it, and understand why this may be the beginning of, like you said, hopefully the beginning of doing another chapter in that series of the graphic novels.
Yeah, Randall Bancroft and I did a really cool indie film together back in the '90s with Ione Sky called Free. Just Free, just the name
Right.
Free. I have a VHS copy of it, but it's never really, no one's ever seen it. It's a fantastic little film, but the guy who produced it, and he had a great young director, Kevin. Gosh, what was his name? Anyway, sorry.
You go
It
back
was so many years ago, but it turned out really great. But the investors were so desperate for their money back on it that they just didn't have any patience, with it at all, and they forced the producer out of it, and they got their own, and they found, I don't know, it came out on maybe it went out on VHS or I mean on DVD or something for like for 15 fucking copies of it or something, but it's never been seen. It's never been seen, but it's a great little film.
Let me ask you.
Maybe I'll put it out
There you go.
secretly.
But in your career or just around you, does that happen more often than people think? Because a lot of people don't understand that. How do good projects just disappear? Or how does they discover a movie and they'll discover it on cable? Like, why didn't I see this sooner? These things do happen
Yeah.
frequently in Hollywood, don't they?
Yeah, probably not as nowadays with so many platforms to stream on. It's
Right.
it's pretty difficult now. Probably the difficult thing is, even if it is released, finding it.
Mhm.
With everything that's out there, you
Right.
really gotta. That's why there's so much focus, I believe, on things that are so genre specific, because it's about eye candy.
Mhm.
It's not really about how interesting is this story. It's about what does your poster look like,
Hmm.
and where is its placement when you're on the scroll,
Right.
and how there's so many factors to it that which that did play into that did play into things back in the day, but on
Mhm.
on a whole different type of scale. This is just a strange time we're in. It's a strange time for the arts and entertainment business. So it's a fantastic time, but it's strange too.
I can understand that. Let's go back to something you were talking about when young actors are at a crossroads, because it kind of sets up something. I'm following your Twitter feed. I believe it's 14 or 15. I'm not sure. Try not that one, the next one, the one above. There we go. And just an innocent, what was your favorite memory playing Cousin Nikki on Webster? And when they told me the show was canceled, there's more to the tweet. Now
Oh yeah,
I'm going to explain that right now. Corin, you were talking about other factors that really made the
yeah,
process. Not Emmanuel Lewis. I know you love him. I've read every article as far as you have nothing but absolute praise for Emmanuel. But when it came to
yeah,
the higher ups, the adults in the film, and the process, it was a downer. And that I get a
oh
feeling,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it was terrible. I don't know how it was for that was a unique situation because George what was
Susan
his name?
Clark and Alex Karras. Yeah,
Alex Harris, that's what
yeah,
it was. Yeah. Mam and George. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
They were married in real life,
Yes.
and they started that show and all this, but they got divorced while the show was still on the air in its
Oh, I
later
forgot
seasons,
about
and they
that.
still
Yeah.
were playing. They were still playing married, and they absolutely hated and
Oh,
loathed and despised each other, and they neither one of them had any kind of filter for how they would
oh,
express that, at one another. And we ended up having to stop shooting in front of a live studio audience because
oh,
they
wow.
would like start dropping all kinds of f bombs and c's and d's and all the other things right in front of parents and their children
Yeah.
sitting in the bleachers.
That's not, yeah, family show like that. Oh God, no. That's a
Oh, I mean, when I think back on it, it was
now it probably
hilarious,
it's there's
but
you can see the humor in it now,
it
but
was
at
a
the time,
misery.
yeah. But
Yeah, it was an artistic misery.
but it brings me to when you talk about crossroads. You were at a crossroads then at a young age because that could have turned you off from acting completely and said, "You know what? This is all BS. I didn't sign up for any of this. Why am I going to continue it?" Thank God you didn't, because it led you to an Emmy nominated role and it led to a lot of other things. But was there ever a thought after Webster like going, "Do I really want to do this?" After what I just
Well, no, because the one thing I started out in acting classes from this same age, 11, 12 years old. I started at Center Stage LA with Kevin McDermott, and I studied with him all throughout my youth, all the way up into my teen years. And even while I was studying with him, I was also studying with Terrence Hines, and then and studied with um oh my gosh, what is his name? Slipping my mind.
whatever, you've had a
I
routine
studied with
after
several
college.
other folks, but then I ended up, and then on into my twenties after Parker Lewis, I started studying with Manu Tupo at the American Repertory Company, and kept studying with him all the way until my thirties.
Right.
So the thing is that even during that time period, while I was working on that show, I was still in acting class, and I was still studying, and I was still having fun with my friends, and I was still, so even though I knew that that was a drag, I also knew that acting was fun,
Right.
and I was still enjoying acting,
That's good.
and it wasn't that long after I did Webster that I ended up getting the part of in What's Alan Watching of Alan Hofstetter, the Eddie Murphy Productions. Um, with Peter Michael Getz and Barbara Barry and Fran Drescher and um, the Smothers Brothers had some pop ups in it. Obviously, Eddie Murphy was in it, and
Right.
it was released as a TV special, but it was meant to be a pilot episode for a series, and I played the lead in that, and it was huge for me.
And
And then went
was
on to I know my first name is Steven.
yeah, that was the Emmy, and that's where I first knew you. I mean, I watched that
Yeah.
special, and it was just like, I'm a young kid. I'm only a couple years older than you, and you don't realize the impact it has until maybe you're older. Because I look back on it and go, did I fully understand this film in my teens? Maybe not completely, but then as an adult, you look back on it and go, whoa, oh whoa. You really do feel the impact of what that film was about.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Well, it's when you actually look at statistics, especially missing children
Yeah,
statistics, the amount that are actually found and returned home are so few.
true.
It's terrifying, to be honest. And why that's not more prevalent in the news,
Well said.
I can't say,
Right.
but I will say that it happens more often than we're aware of,
Yeah.
way more often than we're aware of. It's just a big country,
Yeah.
so we're not seeing, we're not
Right.
feeling that reverberative effect of it going on in our immediate
Yeah.
vicinity.
And
But the amount that are going missing every year that are never found, whether that's from the young age of that Steven Stainer was when he was kidnapped at 7 years old or younger, or
Right.
even those that are kidnapped in their teen years and trafficked or whatever. It's really shocking, but I guess maybe it's just one of those subjects that's so t- taboo and dark that people would rather put blinders on and
I,
assume the best.
I get what you're saying. I hope that's not completely the truth, but that was my first exposure as a kid to that whole topic. So it does have a
Yeah.
more prevalence as you get older because you so go back into your mindset when you start seeing things like this on TV. What I remember, oh my God, I know my name is Steven. That's where I first saw this subject matter. And that to me is probably the strongest connection I have to your career. I mean, I was like everybody else in the 90s. I watched Parker Lewis. I don't deny that. Synchronized watches, everybody. Come on. And the funny thing is, I was in New
Of
York
course.
recently. And I was in New York recently. And there I am walking into the theater district. There is the biggest Swatch store I have ever seen. In 2024, here it is, proving once again everything old comes back. So anybody that says Parker Lewis
Far out.
is dated, you are way, way wrong. It is just a fun to me as when I was watching it back in the day. I felt more this monkeys feel to it at times, that it had that feel of a monkeys episode at times, but different subject matter. But
Totally.
it was
100%. I can
great.
see that. Uh, that's a good comparison. But the actual cinematic style was based off of 3 O'Clock High, that classic 80s
Yeah,
comedy with
Lasco.
Casey
Yeah,
Shamasco
Lasco.
starring in that, and where the camera was a character in the
Yes,
movie.
very much so.
It wasn't just a voyeuristic point of view.
Mhm.
It interacted and played within the story itself, just
Very
like
much
the
so.
people.
Mhm.
And so that's the exact model that they used for the first two seasons of Parker Lewis. Obviously, the third season was after the Fox had been purchased, and they changed the executive staff over at the television in the television division, and they decided during hiatus that they wanted our show to be more like 90210 than Parker Lewis, and that's why season 3 is not the same show, because
Yeah,
they thought that they knew better than and they demanded those changes.
proof is in the ratings because you look at the first two seasons, you had almost all of the first two season episodes were 10 to 12 million viewers. The show didn't need
Yeah.
anything. And then all of a sudden,
I'm gonna walk you over to the other room so I can grab my phone charger. I just noticed I'm
absolutely.
down to
No,
5%.
no,
That's
we get a little action with you here.
that ain't
While you're
cool,
walking
man.
by, we'll talk and remind everybody that season 3, because of that change, the audience was cut in half. So the brilliant minds over there, basically ruined a good thing. Unfortunate, I mean, because that show could have gone longer. It really could have.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's just one of those things. And then oddly enough, there was a an attempt to pitch a reboot, not by me. I had pitched a reboot to Lon Diamond, one of the co-creators of Parker Lewis,
Right,
along with Clyde Phillips and Robert Lewis, and they were also kind of the templates for the three characters of
right.
Mikey, Jerry, and Parker.
Mhm.
And the so they pitched the concept of Parker Lewis's kids, and and everybody has kids, and now they're all at San Domingo, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. But
Right.
I had gone and gotten in touch with him, and I had pitched him a concept that I thought, because of the way that modern times are and all of that, and when you turn things on their head, how well sometimes it works, was doing Parker Lewis Can't Win, and
Mm,
that his best years were in high school, and that ever since then he's been thwarted from any success by Miss Musso and then Lemmer and
Right.
all that, but I staged it where she became the mayor of Santo
Ooh,
Domingo.
there you go.
Lemmer became the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry was a local judge, was the district judge,
Right.
and Mikey was a famous rock star who was moved back to Santo Domingo to retire, and Kubiak became one of the most world famous wrestlers in the
Right,
history of
that's I remember
wrestling,
Kubiak.
and
I'm so
now just
excited to
owns a restaurant, a pizza parlor, and Parker Lewis is like couch surfing,
nah,
trying to come up with his next big.com idea or this, that, or the other. And everybody's tired of hearing his shit. And we even had when I developed it, because I didn't just develop it alone, but I did pitch it alone. But I had a concept that he had a tent in a local park, and but when you crawled inside the tent, when
right.
you cut to interior tent,
Mhm.
you'd pull back and reveal that it's like this lavish, big, huge, like Bedouin style. He's got like
Ah,
all his shirts lined up. He's got a flat screen TV. He's got you know what I mean? That
yes,
you.
I'm picturing this. This is hilarious. Oh my god.
Yeah, it would be outrageous, and just his attempts at finally making that comeback,
Right.
but and you could even use flashbacks and things like that from the show, and interlace old stuff from to set up what where we're at in present time. Anyway, it's never going to happen. But it
No.
was fun. It was fun to pitch it, and I had hoped that I was going to be allowed to go and pitch it with them,
Sure.
but the other concept got pitched in its place,
Mhm.
and unfortunately they were like, meh.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, let me at least get photo number 11 up here and just remind everybody of the beauty of the show. Which, by the way, I read was like there are a lot of foreign countries where this show was huge. Like France was one of them, where it was really just a blockbuster hit. I mean, even being in the
France,
United States.
Germany,
Yeah.
Spain, Israel, many areas of South America too.
Wow.
The one place I'm actually really surprised it didn't become just some almost religious, fanatic cult classic was Japan. It never really crossed over in Japan, and it was so anime, you know,
Well said.
and all of that. I don't know. I'm not sure if at the time when it was out in the '90s, because Fox was there may not have even been a distribution line in Japan to even show
Good point.
anything coming out on Fox.
Right.
And by the time it went into syndication, maybe it would have been too late. You'd have missed the boat on it. But if it had come out in the '90s in Japan, the same, it would have been, we could have kept doing the show just on that syndication alone. Let me
Enough
tell
said.
you, it would have been a huge hit.
It's funny you mentioned syndication. Now you benefited from that with Stargate, even with all the reboots that were going on.
Well, now I was under Canadian contracts
Oh, okay,
now,
all right. Now the truth comes out. Okay, all right.
Canadian Canadian residuals aren't anything close to what you
Enough
get
said.
south of the border.
Right. So in other words, it's sort of like, oh, I can live on the residuals. It's more like, hey, honey, we're going out to dinner tonight. I got my check for the year. That kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. And when by dinner, meaning we don't have to get out of the car to get the food.
Oh God. Where's that photo so I can give him some credit? Photo 13 from Stargate. And I don't know if you've been reading up on this. There's been rumors about the show maybe getting another run in 2024. If they actually tried this again, would you want to be involved in it in any way?
Yeah, I'm asked that all the time. Obviously,
I apologize. I
what
know you probably heard
moron,
it 15 times.
what
Yeah.
absolute moron would say no to a franchise like
There you go.
Stargate? You would have to be just the biggest dummy in the world. I can't imagine that what hubris or what level of success or whatever else there would have to be to interfere with that quick yes
Right.
answer. it's an incredible universe. I was a huge fan of the original movie when it came out. I was one of only 15 people in the greater Los Angeles area that went and saw it in the movie theaters when it came out. It was
Right.
one of those sleeper hits that
It
just went and then became successful later on.
Yeah.
But it was a great movie. And I was blessed to be in the even the small amount I was in it.
Yeah.
Huge blessing, life changer.
Amen. Amen. And I apologize for asking the stupidest question I could possibly ask. With that in mind, I'd go to the random shot segment with Corin Nemec here on the A Game. These are just random questions based on your career, people you know, me stalking your social media. These are the things I do. Now, to
I
start it
love it.
off, I think the appropriate thing to do is to take the red Solo Cup and say, Toby Keith, may
Yes.
you rest in peace, because you have
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Cheers to Toby Keith.
Cheers to
My goodness, I could not have been more shocked. I mean, it's just, I tell you, well, we've lost a lot of people lately. It's
we have.
very shocking.
Give me photo 17. I mean, so the long form video, I didn't really know about the long form video. And by the way, you're looking jacked in that photo. Um, the long form video, I didn't know about it until I started doing country radio. I did that for about 4 years. And they had an interesting blend of new and old. And we played a lot of Toby Keith on the radio station. So, Beer for My Horses was one of those songs. Yeah, it'll show up a couple times a day for sure. So I didn't know the whole story until, I started working on the format. Wait a minute. Corin's in the video. Okay, so how did that all come about? I mean, obviously, I don't think you knew Toby before this, did you?
No, I didn't. The one of the gentlemen who was casting for the music video.
Right.
Sorry, every now and then I get these flashes of stinging, throbbing pain, and I just can't even think for a second. So if
If you're
that
just
happens, I'm not. I'm not a clone.
yeah,
I'm not. Twitching out or like I'm not like
I'm gonna say it once again,
everything's gonna be okay.
if you're joining us
Uh,
now, Corin did have a root canal. He's gutting through it. I give him all the credit in the world for doing that. So I say thank you again. And it's understandable that right now the Novocaine is starting to wear off. Sorry.
oh, that wore off a long time
Hush.
ago, and
Okay, enough said.
but there's no amount of painkiller that they prescribe for these
Right.
kind of things that's going to get rid of this pain. I'm gonna have to suffer through it and just take what they do give me,
Okay.
which is fine. I'm not, it's like I'm not trying to like have them like put me on a morphine drip here, although that would
Right.
be fantastic, wouldn't it? But I remember when I switching total subjects or whatever. When I was filming in Belize and we got into this horrible boat wreck and was nearly died and shattered my femur
I
in seven
heard about
pieces and
that.
had to
Yeah.
have emergency surgery in Belize and all of this. But I do recall that the saving grace of like coming out of a near death experience like that and being in the state and condition of the hospital that I was in. I had an incredible doctor. Thank God. He was I don't know, the stars were aligned for me that evening that guy was available and around to save my life. But in Belize, they are very friendly with the morphine. I can tell you that. And I was extremely thankful for it.
Amen. We'll go back to Toby now. So as far as the video went, you come together. Now this video's got 30 million views over the time. I mean, that's amazing. And I would imagine you gained a lot of new fans that maybe did not know your story because you're tapping a different audience. And then this audience is kind of going, hey, who is that guy in the video? And then they kind of discover you and you maybe expanded upon your base more than you probably expected, I would guess.
Yeah, the casting director for that did some EPK work on Parker Lewis or
Oh,
something
there you
along
go.
those lines, or worked at Fox Publicity or something somewhere along in that world. And so when this opportunity came up, he just thought of me because he remembered having a great time working with me when we did Parker Lewis together. And he just thought it would be unique to have the guy who played Parker Lewis as this, and it worked out great. I mean, what a legendary uh, song to be a part of the music
Absolutely.
video, and then not just the legendary status of the song, but the two singers who were singing the song. I
Toby and Willie.
mean,
Yeah.
Toby and Willie. I mean, Willie gave me a kiss on the noggin at the end of
Aw,
the of that music video. That just like, I'm like, I got kissed by Willie, man. It was an incredible experience, and it was like a 4 or 5 day shoot for that. It's
wow.
like a little mini movie. Well,
Yeah.
if you look at it, it's like a little mini movie, and they had
Double
all the money in the
crossing.
world for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had all the money in the world for it. So and Toby and Willie weren't trying to do, 12, 14, 16-hour days.
Right.
So we were doing like one location, one segment setup type of thing per day. Be out there for like 6, 8 hours, shoot some stuff, go home. Go,
Nice.
show up at the next location the next day, shoot. It was great.
Nice. Random shots with Corin Nemec. I'm going to go music on you again. Which is the better song in your mind? And obviously, when I say the artist, you'll understand where I'm going. Is it Everlast's What It's Like or House of Pain's Jump Around?
Um, I mean, for nostalgic purposes, it's got to be Jump Around. Just
Mhm.
that's a. I was also. I mean, I'm in the music video for a split
Hence the
second,
reason why
which
I
is
set you up like that
but
one. Had to.
yeah, I mean, that wouldn't even be why. It's just because that just, even though it wasn't in the music video, I'd have to choose that because it just sort of put a stamp on that time period. That was like, and even for me personally, the where I was at in my life,
Yeah.
even from a career standpoint, even though I don't give a crap about career or anything like that, but just from how Parker Lewis had been perceived by the culture, the youth culture at
Right.
that
Right.
time, and my love for hip hop and my friendship with a lot of people in the hip hop scene, and growing up in that scene, and knowing Eric, Everlast, and other, other guys, from many other groups, from the Far Side to Funky Town Pros to
Exactly.
Air to Smooth B, Greg Nice and Smooth B. But Smooth B was a buddy of mine, and hanging out with leaders of the New School and Black Sheep and all these different. I was a huge fan of that whole world, and it was it was just fortuitous that I was out in New York at the time that they were filming it, and
Right.
and and Eric and I were friends, and he just hollered at me, and said, "Yo, come down! And you're here in New York. I heard. Come on down. We're shooting the video." So myself and Jerobi from Tribe Called Quest,
Oh.
and Dave from the Violators. It was us three that walked into the bar. It was that Droby and Dave came and met me at that Paramount Hotel, and we left from there. And it was a cold, frigid, snowy night that night. I mean, it was woo. It was a ghost town in Manhattan. There was, the walk to where the bar was they were shooting at, man. It was a lot of fun because there was absolutely no one on the street. It was very, except for me, Jerobi, and Dave.
I think I need to pick up my engineer because when you started mentioning A Tribe Called Quest, I think Christian nearly fainted, by the way. You can give your opinion on that because I saw you just go, oh my God, when he said that.
That's just dope because that was a familiar name. Similar circles.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
right on.
so cool. That's just
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just sitting here geeking out. I'm like,
Hey, you know
I
what?
love it.
Like I
love
said,
it.
I'm geeking out a little bit too. I think that's when you're having a good conversation, you find out these little tidbits. It's like, that's why I do this, just to enjoy these little moments and to have. And by the way, to further elaborate on Corin's passion for music, he put up a tweet I think about a week ago, and he tweets this thing about the moon, and he's got this GIF about the moon, and I find a video from friends of mine who were signed to Sire Records back around 1994. And it's the same Moon being used in their video for a song called Moon by the band Fossil. And Corin right away is like going, this is awesome. And I'm like,
Yeah, that was cool. I had no idea where it came from. I mean, how obscure is that?
yeah. And again, I wouldn't have known until I saw it, but I was good friends with the guys in the band, and they were part of
That's
the alternate
cool.
rock scene in the 90s for me in Jersey. And
Yeah.
some of the greatest guys. They just, like a lot of things, like you talk about movies falling through the cracks. This was a band that fell through the Sire Reprise cracks and yet released some of the best power pop in that era. So I'm glad you
Yeah, that's
appreciate that,
cool.
by the way. I think
I
that's
did. Yeah,
yeah.
man. Thanks for sharing.
No problem. My pleasure, brother. Random Shots continues. Okay. Little things that you may or may not know about Corin Nemec. Of course, he was Captain Alvarez on the Star Trek Renegades fan-funded series. So he's a Trekkie, whether you like it or not. So he's
whether I like it or not. All right.
Ah, there you go. But you're qualified to answer this question. Is it Kirk or Picard?
Oh, Kirk for sure.
There you go.
Yeah, nobody flopped into that captain's chair with like Captain Kirk. I mean, that dude, he just could flop in there with all the weight of the world, the universe on his shoulders. And then his hair would flop with the flop. It was like a double flop. It was flop squared. It was just incredible.
Great stuff. And I'm gonna do a little tangent on this because I know you're a music fan. I want to see if you might know this. Picard was mentioned in a song in the 90s. It was a one-hit band in alternate music. The line went, give your ID card to the border guard. Now they recognize you as Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the United Federation of Planets because they won't speak English anyway. Does that ring a bell?
Is this I think that happened to me when I was coming back from a film I just shot in TJ last year. I left my passport and was at the border cross, and I think that was my exact dialogue. Were you guys filming me? That might have been my exact dialogue.
I
didn't leave my passport. I got out of there. I got out of there safe and sound, man. I landed right in Houston.
Band called the Refreshments from the 90s. They had that one hit called Banditos, and that's what made me think of it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. So you are good friends with Jason London. I know Jason was at the wedding, and you've done a movie with Jeremy London. So you're probably the one person that could probably figure this out if I put up photo number 7. Who is Jeremy and who's Jason?
Well, yeah. Jeremy's on the right, Jason's on the left.
There you go. All right. I couldn't stump you on that.
No.
You see, I don't know. I gotta take your word.
You should have used younger. You should have used them when they were younger, when they were, when they were closer in age. You should have used them when they were younger and closer.
There's no way I can do it now because Jeremy's got the facial hair at this point. So it's like
they're both great. I met both of them at the same time. Growing up in LA, it's like we were all friends with the same group of guys, and it was Steven Dorff and David Arquette and myself, Balthazar Getty, and then you had our buddy Harwell and Pacheco, and then Rodney Harvey, rest in peace, and then a whole bunch of the whole world of the rappers that we were hanging out with, Kevin Hicks from Poet Society, and these. He's got a new group called Gumbo coming out soon. That's great. I'm excited for that. If anyone's into music. Yeah, it's great. It's going to be great. But anyway, it was the 90s were the 90s were a different time in Hollywood as well. It was sort of, I was just talking about this with my buddy Todd not that long ago, that it was kind of like if we had known that was the last hurrah before the digital age took over, and this whole kind of new world, new age, new everything kind of even when the bottle service hit, that was it. I was like, oh, this is the death of the club scene, man. Bottle service, like if you don't pay $600 or $800 for a freaking bottle, you can't sit at a table. And if you don't get a table, then you're stuck over there like a wallflower, bumping elbows with the pillars holding up the damn building. And it's like, and I just refused to play that game at
Right.
all. Oddly enough, when I was over in Thailand working on Operation Dumbo Drop with Ray Liotta and Dennis
Yeah.
Leary and Dougie Doug
Dougie Doug,
and
yes.
Danny Glover. We were over there for 5.5 months, and
Wow, that
there
long.
was yeah, it was a very long time. And we were in Chiang Mai for quite a bit of that. And in Chiang Mai, there was a bar that a lot of us frequented. It was a really, really classy, sweet, like bar slash disco slash whatever. It was
Right.
the way that they design things over there are next level. And but they had bottle service. But so you pay your top dollar or whatever for this bottle,
Sure.
and you get your table and whatnot. But the thing is that they would check it like a coat check. So you didn't have this necessity or need to like finish the bottle before we leave
Oh,
tonight because we can't take it with us and this or this.
right.
They would cork it there, they tape it, they put a number, they give you a number, a card for, your card for it, and then they take it and they store it in the back. And so the next time you come in there, they get you hand them the ticket, they bring that right back over and they set it right back down and you start where you left off.
I have never
And
heard of that. That's brilliant. That is really brilliant. I've never.
genius.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go? You're going to go to the place where you have your bottle checked.
Sure, of course.
You're not going to go anywhere else first.
Right,
That's for damn
exactly.
sure.
You've got a customer who's going to be a repeat customer several times over. That's why it's brilliant because it's like you've hooked them in.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So when they started doing the bottle service in LA, I kind of thought somehow it might lean in that direction, and it just didn't.
No.
It's purely like just to grease you as hard as they can grease you, and then sell you on this charade like you're the man or the woman for the night. Popping bottles, doing the thing like they do in all the music videos and stuff. I'm like, bro, come on, man. People are so delusional.
You're making me joke because I'm laughing so hard. I love it. Random shots of Corin and Nemec, with Corin Nemec. Okay, I've had too many shots. Anyway, when it comes to your career, you've done just about every genre, dude. You've done comedy, you've done drama, you've done thrillers, you've done probably two of the most intense characters anybody could do at one point. You've been Ted Bundy, for God's sake. I mean, before I ask the question, I got to ask you, when you immerse yourself into characters like Richard Speck and Ted Bundy, I mean, do you immerse yourself so heavily that even your friends and family around you are like, oh, you know what, just stay away? Because I would imagine.
No, man.
No?
No, I fortunately, I only had a brushing pass with the method,
Okay.
which is it's probably his name is probably slipping my mind because see, I'm an anti-Methodist, if you
Okay.
could call it that. I think I
I
just
understand
coined
what
that.
you mean by that, of course.
But I studied it for a short time in the early '90s, and it did more damage than it did good for me.
Okay.
And then I
happens.
started studying with Manu Tupou after that, and he had a process called the New Era Acting Technique, which he called a creationist technique, which is where if you develop your character well enough, you
Right.
don't have to ever rely on anything from your own life or any other kind of emotional trappings or imagine or anything else that you might use to conjure emotional realism. It
Right.
shouldn't be necessary if you can do enough character development that and believe wholeheartedly in the character that you're playing and the reality that is,
Right.
then it should be there. But anyway, so when it came to playing those roles, it was like putting on a hat and taking it off at the end of the day. But with Ted Bundy, that was one that just rubbed me wrong after like day 3 or 4. There was just the guy was such an epic low life. And I know there's lower lives than him, and I know that Richard Speck was low enough as it gets,
Sure,
and
absolutely.
and they're both disgusting and all that. The only way that I really was able to justify even enjoying playing the role of Richard Speck was in that he was an alcoholic meth head, and he was psychotic by nature. The guy was abused terribly growing up as a kid, and was just as and never recovered from the psychological trauma that he underwent,
Right.
and was from that point forward a mental wreck.
Right.
So in embracing that character, it was easy for me to justify why he's. But with Ted Bundy, he loved what he was doing.
Right. Different
And
animal.
he really, it's a whole different animal. He was so obsessive and compulsive about it, and sane and meticulous. And it was just nauseating, absolutely nauseating.
Had to be. But learning this way of acting and knowing that you've done just about every genre. I mean, you've even done faith-based films. So I look at it, go, you've done faith-based, you've done Christmas, you've done comedy, drama, suspense, thriller. Is that what you learned, the way you do this? Is that an advantage then? Because you can pretty much go, okay, I can do so many different ways by learning the way you've done acting.
Yeah,
Just for
man.
you.
Manu's, yes, and the one thing that I'll say is also having studied with Manu all the way until his passing in 2005 from 1994,
Right.
was that he wasn't teaching new era acting technique. Wasn't just a methodology for acting on the stage. It was a methodology for also experiencing life from as an artist.
Right.
And he always, I'm not going to go too into the weeds on him and everything. I could talk for hours, but he always stressed that we're only actors when we're acting. And if you're walking around in life and you're telling people that you're an actor and that you're this and that,
Right.
and you're believing in this big grandiose idea of what the social outcome of being a successful actor is,
Right.
right? Not the work, but
Yeah.
this thing,
The
you know what I
glitter.
mean? Fame,
Right.
all that stuff.
Sure.
That's the psychosis, that's the insanity, that's where you can potentially never return from. You can become the character that you've created to be successful, but you can suddenly become that character obsessively, and then become that. Now you're stuck in the ego, this ego self, this projected personality complex that's being held together by just sheer will and
I know
desire to be this thing.
what.
It's an insanity
No,
that
but
I
it's
want nothing to do with.
right. It's fascinating on another level because you don't know me. But what you said there,
Yeah,
I understand it because on a smaller level, being in radio for 30 years, being a
yeah,
local talent, sometimes, and I'm guilty of it, you get wrapped up in all of that, the glitz and all this. And it's not real, but somehow,
yeah,
somebody, you've detoured into this world. And when you come out of it, you start to realize, like going, everything you said, that, wait a minute,
yeah,
this is not what it's about. But I'm guilty of it. I own it. I did it. I'm a different person now. But it is interesting to hear you say that because that right away hits me on levels where it's like, yeah, it was probably about a 5-6 year stretch where it's like, I believe my own shit, for lack of a better term. You think you're like,
yeah,
you're God's gift to everything. And you start to
yeah,
realize, no, this isn't real. And unfortunately, the lines get blurred. You don't even know.
yeah.
Yeah. So you understand what I mean by that. And I admire you.
100%.
Yeah. No,
And that's why I had started when I whether it was a smart move or not, I
right.
just saw at a young age how the media machine and all of that ends up it ended up trying to control me more than I was comfortable being controlled.
Fair enough.
And and especially in my youth, in terms of let's say, when I show up, I am so sorry,
That's
guys,
okay.
I'm trying to do an interview over here. I know, but the ins and outs and all the talking and stuff, is there any way that come here.
Let everybody come on. This is informal.
No, I know, it's totally cool.
Absolutely.
but anyway, I forgot what I was saying.
No, but like you were talking about being sucked into the machine. You were at a young age. You kind of knew that you didn't want to get sucked into that, and you kind of
Oh, well, yeah, no, I was just saying, for instance, just showing up to, having an interview with whatever Teen Bop, this, that, the other People magazine,
you had to go
whatever it is, but
to 90.
arriving there and they have a wardrobe department set up, they have a whole bunch of clothes that they want me to wear, that this designer sent over, that this thing is, and they want my hair to look like this and this way, and it's going to be that, and all these, and I just, and I hung out with cats because I was a graffiti artist growing up,
Right.
And most of my friends, like that's why David Arquette and I were good buddies, and Balthazar and I were good buddies, and most of the people that I met growing up, Seth Binzer from the band Crazy Town, and Mickey Avalon from
Butterfly. Great song, yeah.
and yeah, all of us knew each other in high school and all that time because we were all graph heads, we were all taggers, we all were from different crews around Los Angeles, and all knew each other, and became even tighter because not only were we graffiti heads, but we were also working our way professionally into the arts and entertainment business on some level. And so that I had to answer to to the streets
Yeah.
with these photo shoots of me, pretending like I'm flying like Superman on a bar stool, wearing some stupid striped shorts and like some flowery shirt. All this, whatever, the ridiculous, all the things that you do, leaping in the air like, oh yeah, and all. I had to answer to the streets, you know what I mean? And like they would just because they all had sisters, and they'd be like, "Hey, look what I found hanging on my sister's wall today," and
Of
they'd show me
course.
my own centerfold, and trust me, there were some things drawn on it that weren't supposed to be there, but
Ah,
they'd show me that, and and I'd
right.
have to be like, "Yo, bro, what am I supposed to do?" And it was really actually it was that kind of that pressure that also drove me to, at a certain point, just say no. Just
Right.
say, listen, if I don't like the clothes, I'm not wearing them. You
Right.
guys can photograph me and what I showed up in. This is for an interview. This isn't for, I'm not selling these clothes. You guys
Right.
aren't paying me for this. This is all for free here. You know what I mean? I'm not sponsored by this company. I'm not whatever, So it just, I when and then when I started acting in Manu's class was that was really fundamental because he was saying the same thing I was feeling,
Right.
but articulating it in a very spiritual kind of way, where the sole purpose of being an actor should be the experience you're having when acting, and that's it.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Period. Job done. You
No.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's all it's been for me. And then the Michael Caine school of acting of like, you don't say no to an opportunity, a viable opportunity to practice your craft.
Right.
So,
Michael did a
you
lot.
know, uh, yeah, I could have sought out the TMZ things and all of that. So much of this stuff is staged. That was the other thing too. Even as a teenager in Hollywood with
Right.
the big time PR reps and all of that, they're setting me up on teen dates with this actress from this TV
Right. Yeah.
show, and this model from this thing, and they totally do it. And then you're suddenly in the picks and pans of this. Oh, is it teen love? Is it this? No, it's a setup. That's what it is,
But you sound like, despite all that, where you're at today, you're very comfortable in your own skin. You're comfortable with who you are. You are a working actor. You are got other projects that you like to do. You write poetry. You'll do a screenplay. You're passionate for music. You've got a great wife. And it sounds like you're very happy in this stage of your life. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. Certainly. I mean, there's artistic frustrations that I still have, but there's ways through and out of that. I got some great films coming up. The Heather Graham film, Place of Bones, with Tom Hopper, is going to be fantastic. Audrey Cummings did a really great job directing that, and another film with a part I have in it that David Lipper also produced, called Joe Baby, with Harvey Keitel and Ron Perlman and Deacon Lockman. That'll be coming out at some point here. And then another one called I Feel Fine. It will be coming out soon. It's a heavy drama, teen angst drama, playing the father of a suicidal teen, and a movie that I wrote and produced with myself and Kelly Sullivan and Brian Krause and Jason London, called Deadly Justice, will be coming out in the next month or so on different platforms. And I mean, I got to live, and that's just the tip. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 more I can't even remember that are all coming out too, at different points later in the year. So, I do stay working. I'm definitely getting more interested in the teaching side of things, and have some stuff happening in that area down here in Florida coming up pretty soon. That should be interesting. And then the writing and producing is a very big part of my life as well.
Amen. To wrap this up, Christian, there is a tweet that he did on New Year's Eve I'd like to share with everybody. This is photo 16. I'm going to read it. Not that one. You did 15. Here we go. Another new year, but is it new? We make it new. A marker in the sands of time, surely to be erased gradually, like walking from a most vivid dream, only to lose its authenticity as another fictional reality replaces it. True. Life is what we make of it. Make something beautiful. Great message to start the new year, Corin. I wanted to share that with everybody.
My man, hey, thanks, man. Hey, sometimes I'm inspired. What can I say?
Amen.
I'm actually, I'm working on, based on the New Era acting technique. I'm actually probably another 3 weeks away from having a first draft of a book I'm writing, called "Creating a Character for the Stage and for Life," based on Manu's New Era acting techniques. So we'll circle back to that later on. That should be interesting.
I'm not having you back. There's no question.
Got a lot of what was in that quote there in it.
But no, there's no doubt we're circling it back. We will definitely going to have you back. Even if I'll get you, since you're doing a film with Jason, I'll get the 2 of you on here. I don't know if I can handle it, but it'll definitely be an experience.
Yeah, it'd be great, dude. It'll be a blast.
Thank you so much. I know you're in a little bit of pain.
Hey, thank you, my man. But it's been wonderful. It's been a lovely distraction, my friend.
Thank you very much. And that's a wrap for the A Game tonight. Thank you to my guest, Corin Nemec, for coming on. I'll be back in 2 weeks. And don't forget to follow my YouTube channel. You see the address right over there. Not cost you anything. You can come subscribe and find out about the other 104 episodes that happened before Corin Nemec. And he knows a few of the people that have been on the A Game. Until next time we meet, hey, enjoy the rest of your week ahead. See ya.